Hello, everyone. I'm Willem,
And I'm Tim.
and this is Hear Me Out Pitch. Oh, well, hi, everybody. It's a Thursday, because Tim was busy today.
I was. And then I wasn't because stuff got canceled.
It got canceled?
Yeah.
You're
So,
telling me we could have done this yesterday?
We could have, but Sabrina and I wanted to spend some time together.
That's fine. That's a good fine. I guess you married people have a good excuse. It's fine. Whatever.
You'll understand when you're older.
So I see a lot of, I'll see people at the gym, and people will be younger than me because, whether it be from church or from just the gym, but, they're around, 22 plus, but a lot of them are younger than me. I'm getting to that stage where I'm just the older guy, and I'm like, oh, I'm only 28, FYI, not a grandpa, but whatever. And I'll walk up to them, and it always makes them laugh because I go, when I grow up, I want to be as big as you. And they're like, what? Or I'll say, when I get to your age, I want to be like you. And they look at me like, what? It's just funny because people are like, oh, stop, go on. And I'm like, oh, well, Tim, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm good. I'm tired.
Looking very fly in your button up. Is that like Hawaiian? Is that pineapples?
It's...
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
You better be careful when you wear that.
It's pineapples.
Stupid, nasty people. Anyway, we'll talk about it later. All
right.
People are weird. Anyway,
That's a given. We're human.
We are very human, and I think that's actually kind of a neat segue.
That is a really neat segue.
Is because we're talking about someone who's not human, but he should be the epitome of what it means to be human.
Yeah. And no, before you get excited, this is not my pitch for Star Wars Episode 8.
Oh, random Star Wars thing though, and that is coming. I have requested for Tim to get that done before the end of the year.
I'm working on it.
So what do we think? In October, November, December?
Whenever I get to it.
Okay, fine. You all gonna get it.
Work, school, and married life makes it really hard to do stuff.
It does? What? Random Star Wars thing. And I'm gonna have to watch the video he sent me, but apparently there was a comic that was written and George Lucas gave it authorization, whatever. Don't know when, but allegedly the reason there are humans in the Star Wars universe is because they're us, and Earth had gone to crap. Wait, before you start with the whole, and I said the same thing
a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Humans messed up their planet, and while trying to travel away, they get sucked in through a wormhole and end up in a galaxy and a long time ago, far, far away. And apparently it was canon for a bit. Don't know if it still is.
Interesting.
But I will have to watch the video. So someone sent me, and I'll send it to you. But I was just sitting there going, what? Like, well, think about it. Humans don't really fit in that universe. And I'm like, well,
I would say they fit about as well as everybody else.
I mean,
all the other different species, like most of them are humanoid, right? Bipedal, 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, a mouth, a nose. Some have fur, some have weird ears and a tail. Some are weird alien.
Well, it could be that
obviously alien, but
they
weird,
were in there so long.
Thingies.
Ooh, speaking of zombies,
spooky season.
It is spooky season, and I'm really hoping that Ahsoka has some zombies in it. I need to watch that show.
I just today finished
Rebels?
Season 2 of Rebels. With the whole Ahsoka Darth Vader thing. And it was awesome.
Did you cry?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Inside. It wasn't like tears flowing.
Oh, I
cried a little bit.
I will
inside.
admit, I tear up. While we were watching Superman, I was like, don't know if you heard me a few times, but I was like,
I heard you.
Oh, you heard me. Oh, well, yeah, I guess the segue kind of failed because we went off on a tangent.
Well, segue, we're talking about a particular alien again, one of the most iconic people ever. With
One of the
a
most, I would say, one of the top five most recognized people symbols on this planet.
yeah symbol in particular.
Mm.
There's a particular charm to the S within the shield. Tells us everything we need to know about our main man, Superman.
That was smooth. That was smooth. I like it. Not the best. Not the next. Oh my gosh, guys! I don't know why I'm so tongue tied today. The ADHD train is off the rails and going to Taiwan. I guess. Don't know why Taiwan. I
I
think
don't
I
know.
want Taiwanese
Bring me
food.
back some food.
I know that's what I was saying. Oh, but yeah, today we're talking about Superman, a man who I deeply, deeply love this character. Love him so much. He's super important. I know a lot of people give a lot of hate or think he's cheesy or so many things, but um, today we just want to. Well, first off, we want to talk about Man of Steel because I had learned that Tim had never seen it,
No.
and I thought of having Tim watch it and we make how we would have done it. But then I realized that this episode should really just be about how
What
we want to
we want
see.
for Superman.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's because it's such a broad thing. Kind of like, and maybe someday we'll talk about what we want to see in the Harry Potter series that's going to come up soon.
I want Harry Potter to just die.
You don't like it?
The 7 movies we have are awesome. The books are great. That's all we need.
Okay, but what if they go fully in depth and they actually have the characters look their age? I'm not talking about the kids. I'm talking about like Sirius Black he's supposed to be like 34 when he first meets Harry. He not Gary Oldman in his, almost put like late
Gary
40s.
Oldman pulled it off.
He did.
He did a really good job. Picturing Sirius Black, I picture Gary Oldman, and I will never see him any other way. He is the perfect Sirius Black, in my personal opinion.
When I read the books, I saw him as I remember you. We were a little bit in age gap there, so I read them before. I read most of them.
I read them before I watched them as well.
Okay.
And I still Gary Oldman is exactly how I pictured Sirius while I was reading them.
I would say I could see Snape being a little different, even though I love Alan Rickman. Anyway, not here to talk about Harry Potter, but that's kind of what we're going to do with Superman. So, Tim, I would like to ask, and especially because you gave up a wonderful opinion, how did you like Man of Steel?
As a movie, 8 out of 10. It was a really good movie. I will watch it again for sure. It was a good movie. As a Superman movie, putting it in under the Superman category,
How well did it capture the Superman essence?
I have to put it at like a 4.
You went lower. You said
I
5
said 5
at first.
I said 5 the other day, and I'm going a little bit lower. I'd say a 4. It didn't feel like Superman. There were 2 scenes that felt like Superman. The one when he is pushing through the gravity well and just trying to push as hard as he can to fly up through the ship. And then the other when he flies off to save, or what? No, sorry. 3. The second one is when he goes to fly off out of Zod's ship to save Lois. It just gave me the Superman saving Lois Lane vibe, which is perfect. It's how it should be. And then the third one, this is the one that captured it the most for me. And I believe it's right after he destroys the ship.
The gravity well.
Or the gravity well, and he's thrown aside. And it's a beautiful scene where he reaches up toward the sun,
which is peaking, and there's a lot of visual plays there because the sun is breaking through the darkness. It's hope that a new sun will come, and it was really good. And we noticed another analogy, which I noticed the first time, but you were pretty taken aback, the church scene.
Yeah, there is a scene where Clark Kent goes to visit a church, and the priest that is there, they're talking about what Superman should do. And Clark, it's a beautiful frame. And if you're not religious, that's okay.
Because even if it's not, and I don't think Zack Snyder is. Maybe he is. I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
None of our business. But still, Christ as a story
Uh-huh.
figure, we can put it as a story because it is a wonderful story of a individual that sacrifices himself for others.
Hmm.
Superman
Does that.
does that. I believe that the creators of Superman were very Christian, and Superman, to some degree, is based off of Jesus.
Yeah.
So many do. Aslan from Narnia, Gandalf.
Aslan is Christ. Like
he,
C.S.
there's
Lewis wrote it in a way that essentially they're one and the same.
and Gandalf also is a
Gandalf
because they
also.
both sacrifice themselves
Uh huh.
for others. So a a character that sacrifices because Clark,
Yes.
and I'm going to refer to him as Clark because that's usually how Superman wants to be called.
Yeah.
He is asking this father, I am the one that General Zod is looking for, and how am I supposed to go and sacrifice myself for all the rest of the world? And just behind him is just a beautiful glass pane picture of Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
It was. I saw the scene, right, and I saw Clark is on the right side of the screen, and this stained glass image of Christ is on the left. Sent shivers down my spine because I was like, "Oh my gosh,
it was
that is a perfect tie to from one story to another, from one savior to another."
it was very well done. Like I got to give Zack Snyder props on certain scenes, but
Mm-hmm.
I just this movie isn't the type of movie where it was Zack Snyder's take,
It was.
and that's fine. Funny enough, Zack Snyder is doing a Star Wars movie.
Is he?
Wait, it's a Star Wars style because he
Okay.
has wanted to do his own gritty take, and Netflix was like, okay, and there's laser swords, there's force. It's basically everything, but it's just not Star Wars. Star Wars was like, I believe Disney was like, fine, have it, do it. It's fan, whatever. Basically, I don't know how its legality of it works.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a trailer. I'm excited for rated R Star Wars.
For rated R Star Wars.
Yeah,
Oh
I'm sorry.
boy.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
Anyway, but one take I saw of this is that this version of Superman is Superman, and Clark Kent is the afterthought.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be reversed
It should be the other way around.
because Superman, before he is Superman, he is
Clark
Clark
Kent.
Kent, and
He
that's
grew up as Clark Kent, and that's how we should see him. And obviously, right, in Man of Steel, we do see Clark showing a lot of his powers and using them to save people and to help people. But ultimately, he's still Clark. Like, he will always be Clark Kent, or Kal-El, before he's Superman. He will be human before he is super. If that makes any sense.
no, he strives to be a man before he really
Mm-hmm.
acts on the super part of him.
And that was one thing that he was. That's one thing that I did enjoy about this movie is throughout the movie he was struggling to find a balance between saving people, helping people, and trying to live life, like trying to be a human being, trying to live a normal life. Which for a superhero like that, someone who is an alien, he came from another world, with powers, and he's different from everybody. That's incredibly hard, but he still tried. He tried harder to be human, and then he tried to be a hero in the beginning. Um, and toward the end of the movie, or at the end of the movie, I think he was able to find that line where he was able to be a hero and human at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I pointed it out the other night when we were watching. I feel like this story was a great sci-fi movie. It was a beautiful sci-fi movie, written, story very well thought out. Um, Lots of flashbacks, but that's fine. But it didn't feel quite like Superman. It felt too dark, too violent. Not violent per se, but
Dark.
very dark. It was very dark and depressing for a Superman movie. And I get it. It's Zack Snyder's style. It's how he writes movies, and I get it. But to me, it didn't capture the essence of Superman. Like I said, those three scenes, particularly the scene where he is rising from the dust, reaching toward the sun, that was Superman. Crisp, clean, perfect Superman.
Absolute perfection.
Absolute perfection. But everything else, it just felt like another sci-fi movie. A very well-written sci-fi, but a different, not Superman sci-fi movie nonetheless.
Anytime Clark was not on screen, it typically felt like Krypton, the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely loved the beginning of this movie.
Awesome.
Very well done. The world of Krypton was amazing. I still wish the robots were called Brainiac, because I really think Brainiac is a necessity, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
He is a very good villain, and we haven't ever. I've seen him in so many animated things, but Brainiac is a necessity because
has he? I don't think he's ever come to
not the big screen.
The big screen.
He's always been in animated movies. I do not have one, but typically Brainiac. He was in the Injustice 2 video game. He's usually a main villain in the Justice League.
The Lego games, I believe. He's also in there.
So he's not very well known amongst a lot of people, but he should be, because it's Brainiac. He
in the comics, Brainiac was one of Superman's greatest villains.
Oh yeah, and he takes his cousin Kara's home and puts it in a little display. It's insane. He's a very good character, and I absolutely love Brainiac, and I would have loved to see that more. But still, the chemistry between Zod and Jor-El, Zod himself is one of my favorites, which means I never, ever, ever want to watch the Flash movie, because apparently Zod just didn't go as hard as he did, because it didn't feel right to him, and yet he still did it. And I guess, sometimes you just need a paycheck, but we're gonna have to watch it someday, Tim. At some point, but today
we're gonna have to go through like the entire DCU.
No, I feel like maybe we should just start talking about what we want to see more. Even with Marvel nowadays, I'm like, I don't want it. Oh, maybe we'll talk about what I want. I don't know.
By the way, yes, we did come back to the superheroes for this particular one.
Well, DC,
it's a different vibe.
It is a different vibe because it didn't ever feel like it was successful.
Separate movies were successful. The Batman series, for example, Dark Knight. That was very successful.
But this attempt for a DC universe, movie universe, never went off. They tried to compete with so many things. They tried doing their own thing, and it never ever launched.
When particular story tries to leech the life from another story, tries to have a symbiotic relationship that's one way, basically, it doesn't work out. And that's how DC and Marvel feel to me. Marvel did very well, I think, with the Avengers. The first 3 phases, right, from Iron Man all the way up to Endgame. It was awesome.
Every year we looked forward to it.
Very well done.
Because it was like small doses, and now we're just numb to the drug, I guess. I don't even know.
No, I agree. And it was the MCU did very well up until that point. After Endgame, there's only a couple movies that I enjoyed that Marvel has put out. DC saw how successful Marvel was, and they tried to do the same thing. And they tried to rush it, and it felt rushed, and it just didn't feel right, and so it's flopped. Separate individual movies have done really well. Man of Steel, for example, great movie, awesome. I will watch this again. Like I said, the Dark Knight series, I will watch those again. Um, they're they're awesome. It just feels too copycat ish, if that makes any sense.
I mean, so many. We have been on this earth for eons, not eons,
Millennia.
millennias, and stories have been a part of our cultures, our ways, the way we pass down our um, way, how we let our children know what we've done, and how we pass down how to be better. Blah blah blah. I think I've given the spiel before. I love stories because they are part of the human nature, and I find that for people to be like, oh, they're copycatting. It's like, well, it's not really hard to find similarities in stories nowadays. You look at
That's true.
most cultural stories, you're like, those sound pretty familiar because at once we all probably came from the same thing. I don't know, but I've been blown away by how many similarities are between stories of various religions, various
Different
cultures, different
mythologies.
mythologies.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just funny because how do we now write stories so unique? Or do we just try to play? I have a philosophy that playing on the emotions is what is going to get you there. And if you're going
Mm-hmm.
to do one about characters, strike where the iron is most hot and where we connect to these characters the most. Why do we connect with Superman? We don't have superpowers. We're not aliens.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we connect with Superman? Well, I don't know.
I don't know. Well, I do know. He brings us hope, right?
Aw.
It's always with Superman in particular. It is always hope. It is a hope and a feeling of protection and safety. Um, when we are able to turn to someone more powerful than us for protection, for guidance, for help, it's just very comforting, right? And it's the same thing with with religion, right? A lot of people, whether they believe or not, they gravitate towards religion because the idea of a higher power, a divine being of sorts, watching over us and listening to us when we talk to the wind, so to speak. It's very comforting knowing, at least believing, even half-heartedly, that we're not alone, and that there is somebody up there watching, right? And that's the same idea with Superman. We relate to that because Superman brings us hope, and he brings us a sense of being protected.
He should.
He should.
He
He
should.
should.
Because lately, I don't know how well you know comics nowadays, but in this
Mm-hmm.
past decade, heroes that we love, Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, like Manny, everyone's really been enjoying the fall of the hero lately. And I
Yeah.
understand that we feel hopeless in this kind of nowadays, and it's easy to be negative, but it's like, why should we focus so much on the fall? Like, my favorite part of the Lord of the Rings isn't when Frodo succumbs to the ring. It's when Sam carries him after. And of course we do
Mm-hmm.
need that fall, but
Yeah.
why are we focusing so much on beating down the heroes lately? It's been happening a lot. I feel like
Yeah.
even with like kind of like Thor Love and Thunder, it was we're not focusing on a incline anymore. We're just either staying stagnant or they fall. And Thor went through this whole down phase in Ragnarok and Infinity War. But we never really saw him. We saw him recover to the degree, but we didn't see him become more. And I feel like that's why Thor has become so blah to us.
That is, I will say, that is one thing that I did enjoy about the very end of Love and Thunder. And I know we talked about this in our second and third episode.
I like your ending better, Tim. Go listen to
um,
those.
yeah, if you haven't listened to those, go back and listen.
Tim's
They're
is
pretty
really
great.
good. Like Mish, like no, can't
Willems is also pretty good.
stop.
But that is one thing that I did like about the end of Thor: Love and Thunder is it felt like Thor finally had a purpose again.
But I didn't need a whole movie
I yeah.
of stag of a standstill
Hmm.
of nothing. I would have even loved like just whatever. I we need a story needs to have inspiration. It needs to have a moral.
The hero's journey is full of ups and downs, but ultimately there is movement. Imagine you're at the mall,
Okay.
right? And at the Layton Hills Mall in particular,
Okay.
there's the two stories, right? There's the two floors. Not all the stores, not all the shops that I want to go to are on the bottom floor or on the top floor. They're all over. So I'm going to stay on the bottom floor to check out the fancy clothes, right? And all that. I'm going to go upstairs to go to the nerd stores. I'm going to go back downstairs.
Because your wife dragged you down
Because my
there.
wife dragged me down there. I'm going to go back upstairs for the food court. And, it's just constant up and down, up and down. And that's how these stories should be, right? Like you brought up Lord of the Rings, right? Each book slash movie had its own ups and downs. We in the first one we have the whole thing with Boromir, right? And he falls. He does succumb. He does fall. He does fail as a hero and a protector. But then he comes back, and that is, like you said, that's the hardest hitter for me, right? Is when he comes back, when he rises again and dies with honor, right? He fails. He tries to take the ring for himself, and ultimately he is sorry for what he did. And then he dies protecting Merry and Pippin. He takes on an entire army of Uruk-hai because he wanted to atone for the mistakes that he made. In the second one,
Honestly, I'm drawing a blank too.
uh,
I guess we'll have to just skip over the second one.
the third one,
Because I mean, it does end it ends on a cliffhanger, right? Because
uh,
Merry and Pippin get taken. No, I don't honestly. I haven't seen those in so long, and people are gonna be like, "You guys call yourself
getting
nerds?"
ready. It's like preparing for war, and I guess there really isn't much any massive things in the second one, but in the third one, there's also there's Shelob, super dark, right up there at the beginning of the third movie or the end of the second book. Then there is Frodo's fall from grace as he does succumb to the ring at the very end, and Sam isn't able to help him until Gollum ultimately, I guess, takes one for the team, and Frodo gives him the finger as Gollum falls.
No, you did not just say that.
I did. It's the wrong finger, but
Gollum has a finger. Gollum is free.
There is Gollum is not Dobby.
Gollum has been given a finger.
Anyway, it is a cycle. There's ups and downs, and a good story. So why are we so
obsessed about heroes being so broken nowadays? It's bugging me so much. And for people to be like, well, look at Infinity War. It ended with them failing. You're right.
It did. And then Endgame was the second half of that movie.
And we had to go, are they going to make up for it? We had hope as an audience that they would recover from this. But I will say that is one of my favorite endings.
I have to agree.
Marvel movie.
I have to agree.
Because in the end, in some twisted way, Thanos won his hero's journey. He sat down and looked at a beautiful universe and was able to rest.
Made right, quote unquote. He achieved his dream. His dream was
fulfilled in that movie.
Yeah.
But it was just not the one we were rooting for.
Uh-huh. Oh. Yeah. As an author and as a dungeon master, as a world creator, as a nerd who likes to tell stories and who likes to read and listen and watch stories unfold. One of the most important things that you can do is take the essence of a character. Your neighbors are loud.
They are loud. Hopefully y'all don't hear that.
take
Jith.
the essence of a main character, whether it's the protagonist, the the antagonist, or the sidekick, whoever it is, right? If you can take that character, give them a purpose, give them some ups and downs, give them chance for character growth, and then ultimately allow that character to succeed and to achieve what we're wanting them to achieve, that is a good story. And that's something that in the Stormlight archive, Brandon Sanderson did a perfect job with this um, when he wrote the character of Kaladin Stormblessed.
No.
Kaladin Stormblessed is the epitome of perfection when it comes to storytelling and the hero's journey.
I would argue Zuko.
Zuko in Avatar is also the epitome of the hero's journey, right? We talked about Zuko a couple episodes ago, and how he had his struggles and his fights, his internal strife, as it were, and then he realized he didn't know who he was and who he wanted to be, and then he overcame that and became who he wanted to be, made recompense, and that was perfect. And that's Superman. I guess skips a lot of those steps in the hero's journey in a lot of the stories, right? If you're looking at the old Superman that we saw in back in the 1940s, when he's fighting the scientists, mad scientists that are constantly kidnapping Lois Lane and shooting lasers and dropping buildings and planes on Superman. It's he skipped the hero's journey. He was already perfection.
Yes, and that's okay.
That is okay.
And so I showed Tim a clip from a animated movie, and spoilers, it is the death of Superman in this story from the 80s comic book, which I own actually.
Mm-hmm.
Superman and Doomsday, this terrible beast which Sully wants to kill, they are fighting in Metropolis. And this animated movie is very good. Honestly, most of the animated movies from the 2010 to 2020, you all should watch that story arc because that is the DCU that we all wanted. DCMU, that DCEU, thank you, that we all wanted. They are really good. I recommend those for everyone. I believe they're all on Max, so try that out for a month and go crazy. Anyway, Superman and Doomsday are fighting on this bridge, and this mom and her little boy, who's obsessed with his little Game Boy, I'll just call it a Game Boy because it looks just like a Game Boy.
It's a Game Boy.
It's a Game Boy, are running away, and the little boy drops his Game Boy. Superman is literally fighting, trying to keep the bridge from falling apart. People are running. He is rescuing people, throwing cars, deflecting cars, and all this is happening. And at one point, the little boy gets away and goes for his fallen toy, and a big chunk of the bridge comes tumbling down, and this mother screams out, "Somebody save my child." And Superman, while tying up this beast and literally like bleeding, hurting, in so much pain, goes down. The debris falls, the screen goes dark, and the little boy opens his eyes, and Superman is holding all this debris up, and he says, "Go back to your mom, son. Everything's going to be okay." And he gives him his Game Boy. And the little boy starts running away, and he turns around and gives him the biggest little hug. And I was talking to Tim because I said, this to me is just the perfect analogy of Superman. The world could be going to shambles. Superman could be busy fighting something terrible. And many times, more often than not, he will hear a small voice of someone in trouble, and he'll help them. And I love it so much. Superman is truly one of my favorites, and that's what I never saw that in Man of Steel.
No,
I saw
we did see other scenes in Man of Steel where he is helping people, he is saving people. There is the scene at the where he is on a bus, and the bus, one of the wheels goes out, and they end up going into a river. The entire bus goes into a river, and then Superman, Clark, as a child, jumps out of the window, or the back door, the emergency hatch in the back, um, and pushes the he pushes the bus out of the river and saves everybody, and then he jumps back in to the river and saves a boy who previously had been picking on him, and bullying him, and still Superman, or Clark at this point, um, Clark saved the little boy, the kid that had been picking on him, making fun of him, calling him a freak, and that shows who Superman really is. It really does show who Superman is.
But then it has that weird take of John Kent. Can we just take like 2 minutes to talk
Mm-hmm.
about how John Kent was so afraid of his son?
And that's not how he was, or not how he should be.
No, I'm trying to find, and I was hoping it was at this comic book store today, but it is one of my favorite little panels, and it's very recent, and it's in this comic book. It's Superman Red and Blue. The whole thing is drawn in just red and blue ink.
Okay.
And he and there's this wonderful part where it's showing John Kent, and for the most part John and Martha received this baby boy very old in age. They are very reminiscent of the biblical story Abraham and Sarah,
Yeah.
because they just received this child at an older age. And like Hercules and his adopted parents, they were older couple, and they are like, we finally get a child. Anyway, it's not important. What importance is that this man put everything about being a good man into Clark. He didn't train him to be Superman. He trained him to be a good man.
Mm-hmm.
And in this comic, it shows John holding little boy Clark, and he goes through this panel, and he goes through him. He says, "You are special. You mean everything to me. You are going to do great things. I see potential in you." And the final one, it says, "I love you." And it shows Clark looking over his father's graves. And then it shows him as Superman. And he's saving a woman from a burning building. And he looks at her and says, "You are special." And he goes up and he's sitting with a homeless man. "You mean everything to me." He's sitting with a little boy. "You are going to do great things." And he's sitting there with a bunch of people doing service. "You are going to accomplish so much." And then the final panel is him floating, and the whole world is in front of him, and he says, "I love you." And it's just this wonderful take. And I know I'm like tearing up.
I just got goosebumps.
It is such a beautiful little story. I've been searching for this comic because I was like, that is Superman. And I don't know, maybe it's just the little boy in me who grew up watching those cartoons, a little boy who didn't fully understand a lot, and instead of looking to adults and parents for guidance and opinion, just because his parents were busy at work because they were a young couple, and he did look to his I did look to my parents a lot, but many of my life lessons were learned from Disney cartoons, from movies, and from these fictional superheroes. So Superman's very, very special to me. So I really would want to see James Gunn embody the Superman, a perfected one. And I know a lot of people might hate that, but that's who Superman is. It just, ooh, sorry, let me get down from my soapbox. Yeah. Okay, I'm back down. Sorry, everyone. And sorry for getting all emotional, because this is a character that means the world to me. So, again, loved Man of Steel. Love it as a movie, but it just doesn't feel
Doesn't feel like Superman.
Superman.
And that could change. with how the world is seeing heroes now, and like you said, loving the heroes fall, and seeing the darker sides of the heroes. I guess Man of Steel does kind of fit into that,
It
but
does.
it doesn't fit into our vision for who Superman is. I grew up watching the 1940s Superman cartoon show.
Wow, you're old.
No, my dad is old.
He's not that
He's
old.
not that old, but he's the one that showed me them.
Tim's dad was born in the 30s and was watching this in the 40s, and so yeah, Tim's dad is very old,
There's
but he looks great for
100.
80 something.
If he was born in the 30s,
yeah,
he's 90s.
He's 90s, but he
No,
looks great,
he's
very
not
spry.
No, he was born in the 70s. Anyway, he used Superman a lot to teach us. I don't know if he even remembers, but we would be watching the Superman cartoon. Most of the time it was just me and my brothers, and it was something that my dad did to sit us down so that we would not bug him about dinner and about food. Or my mom would do that so that she could get 5 minutes of peace and quiet, because my brothers and I were a rambunctious.
Because little boys
bunch.
are just crazy. Little kids are all like that.
But I grew up watching the old Superman show, where there's the mad scientist who is never given an actual name, and he kidnaps Lois Lane and shoots massive laser beam at Superman, and this laser beam, which is concentrated power of the sun, to quote Mega Man or Megamind, and it's basically like Superman is untouchable. He is the Man of Steel. He is bulletproof. He is faster than a flying bullet. He is
more powerful than a locomotive.
Powerful than a locomotive.
Can jump over a building with a single bound. It's not a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman.
I growing up with that and getting to know Superman the way that he was originally written.
And a lot has changed.
And a lot has changed since then, and that's okay. But in my heart of hearts, I will always see Superman as the perfect man, the flawless man, flying around, saving the world day after day, saving Lois Lane every single day, and defeating these villains that have lasers, and super powerful equipment, and that have kryptonite, his only weakness. And that's how I will always see him, as he is an icon. He is, when you are asked superhero, when the word superhero is said, and you're asked what do you think about when you hear the word superhero, 9 times out of 10 it's probably going to be Superman, just initially. And then you might be like, well, I think my favorite superhero is so and so, but ultimately, like, the idea of a superhero
was Superman.
Is Superman.
He was, yeah. I would say you're definitely right. Most of the time, I would say maybe not 9 out of 10 nowadays.
For me, at least.
For you. But I would say for most of the world, you ask 3 out of 5 people, hey, think of a superhero right now.
Superman.
I would say they might think of Superman. Mm-hmm. Spider-Man, another one. Again, we've had this discussion many times of who the top superheroes are, and we will have a Batman day, because I definitely want to talk about what I want to see in the next Robert Pattinson Batman movie. Ooh. Anyway,
you'll just have to sit in suspense until Willem decides that he's actually going to talk about it.
Yeah. Gosh,
just like
darn it!
You're going to have to sit in suspense waiting for me to finish my Star Wars series.
You're doing
and
3,
for Willem
right?
Huh?
You're gonna do 3, right? 3 movies?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll do a trilogy.
Oh.
You're also gonna have to wait for Willem to finish his Spider-Man.
Oh, Yeah, because I'm gonna do two more movies. That's okay. I'll start doing that, and we'll drop them both around the same time. Anyway, Superman. I want to kind of go rewind back and go about why, because a lot of people listening are going, "What exactly about Man of Steel made it so not Superman?" Like, what are a few instances? And I think the first instance off the bat, because not only to me was the way that this movie was cut up. What do you say cut up? But how it played out,
How it was arranged.
arranged. I really was like, okay, we're just rushed into Superman being an adult. It could have been nice to see him be a child. Anyway,
I would have liked all those cutscenes, all the not cutscenes. This isn't a video game.
flashbacks,
All those flashbacks. Thank you. At the beginning,
or at
as
least a
one
few of them.
cohesive. Yeah.
Because I liked the one with his mom looking at him. No, when she said, "Your father loved you so much," and it showed him. That was to me a Superman scene where little boy Clark has the cape and he puts his. Again, there's little nuggets in there where I'm like, that's Superman. But for Clark to not punch the angry guy, the jerkwad at the bar, that was definitely a Superman scene. But when that man walks out and his car is in complete ruin and
Yeah.
logs are all over the place, so that means that man no longer has a job. That man, like, of course, he's not going to learn his lesson. But the thing is that really going to teach him a lesson?
No.
No, it's just like this is a big freak of nature event happening to him and it's going to traumatize him. And to me, that wasn't, I don't know. I just don't feel like Superman would do that sort of thing. But
No.
there was a time where Superman does in the Christopher Reeves movie, Superman loses his powers and he gets beat up at a bar. Doesn't have his powers anymore. He gets thrown to a pinball machine. I mean, he gets thrown to the bar and he comes up and he's bleeding and he goes blood and Clark has a panic attack kind of and Lois is freaking out because Clark's bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
And then later in the movie he gets his powers back, goes to the bar and he's like, what do you want? And he like spins him on the bar stool and he flings him across the bar and he goes into the pinball machine. So, and again though, that doesn't feel like Superman to me. I just feel like
I've never seen Superman as the vengeful type, except on YouTube. A lot of Batman Superman stuff will pop up on my feed, and there is the scene where Joker kills Lois and their unborn child.
Oh, and makes
and basically turns Superman. Yeah.
So the Injustice Superman.
Yes.
That is one of my least favorite Supermen. But it is one that I feel like that's a good one to talk about.
That is, I will say, that is a moment where I do feel like Superman would get his revenge. I don't think that Superman would have punched a hole in Joker's chest.
I will say the writers of the creators of Mortal Kombat were highly influencing that universe first. So
believe it.
But I don't know. Because this Superman in Man of Steel would become that Superman.
Yeah.
He even does in, I believe he does in the Snyder cut. Lois dies from Darkseid and it shows Superman being evil. But to me, everyone's just obsessing about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because
man wants to see their heroes fall so that they can feel better about themselves.
And that's what bugs me.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to see someone not have flaws. Because lately, even with Spider-Man 2, they've been just brutalizing him. And Spider-Man is relatable to us because he has real-life human struggles, unlike Batman, who has a bunch of money and can solve a lot of those problems, but he has to deal with villains. Superman's just kind of perfect, but he has the dual identity to deal with. Spider-Man is more of kid trying to pass school, pay rent, blah, blah, blah. But they've just been focusing on tearing him down. They've had these awful story arcs of Dr. Octopus's mind getting swapped with him, and he is Spider-Man, and it's just this darker take. We have this version of Superman, the Injustice one, who goes insane. But yeah, there's a version of Superman out there who loses Lois due to old age because he doesn't age well and he doesn't go insane or he loses her and he grieves and he moves on. And that's what I truly believe
And
Superman would do.
there's a particular Lois and Clark moment. I have no idea where it comes from, but essentially Lois is dying. She was hit by some baddie. I'm not. It was a long time ago. Long time ago, meaning a few months ago.
Oh.
That I saw this. But essentially, she's dying, and Clark is crying and grieving, and trying to say it's all right, everything's gonna be okay. How can I fix this? How can I fix you? How can I heal you? What can we do? And Lois puts her hand up, caresses his face, and says, "Clark, do what you do best and save them all." And then she passes away, and
I
he cries and for a moment, and then he stands, and then he's going, and then later there's another scene where he's about to kill somebody. I think it was probably the person that killed Lois, and then he hears her voice, and instead of killing them, he doesn't. He moves on, and he continues to be that superhero with the classic superhero rule: don't kill anybody. And it was just that felt like Superman to me, right? He lost everything. He lost his wife. He lost his city. He lost the people closest to him, and yet he didn't choose revenge.
and I that sounds so familiar. It's probably an animated movie.
I think it was.
And with the Superman, with not the superhero rule about no killing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, it's unrelatable to us because we have the right, at least here in the US, we have the right to bear arms, defend ourselves. If someone threatens your life, if someone were to break in, and you could defend yourself, if they end up dying, you have to live with it, but you defended yourself, whatever. With superheroes, I feel like since they are so powerful, because there are times where they have to kill something because it's so strong and they won't, like Superman killing Doomsday. I don't think he has any remorse for killing Doomsday. That's fine.
No.
But,
Superman will never have any qualms about killing Doomsday. Because
but
Doomsday at that point is no longer Doomsday isn't a person.
and you're right.
Doomsday
So
is a force of nature, an entity.
but when I feel that it's killing without mercy, without justice, that's when it becomes an issue. That's what Batman always says. He's like, we don't just kill willy-nilly. Now, do I wish Gotham would have put Joker to death? Yes. I do believe the death sentence would have been fine, but that's another debate and we won't get political here. But that's another story. It's like Gotham, there's no rehabilitation for someone that far, in my opinion. Rorschach had the good idea. Sorry.
Well, there is the one scene where Batman. It's another scene that I saw on YouTube this week, actually.
Oh.
I've seen it before, but essentially, it's Joker makes Batman laugh, and Batman basically says, we don't have to do this anymore. I can rehabilitate you. You could re-enter society as a normal person. And Joker says, I can't do that. And then Joker tells a joke.
Oh, so this is from The Killing Joke, and he tells the joke about the two prisoners. One jumps across this gap.
Oh, and the flashlight.
And
yes.
He says, I shine the flashlight and you jump across. And he goes, are you stupid? I can't walk across on that. Oh, sorry. He says, I shine the light and you walk across. And he goes, are you stupid? You'll turn it off halfway through. And then they both
and Batman laughs.
Starts laughing. Many people theorize that he kills Joker after that laugh. If you read the comic, anyway, that's another thing. So, but man, we have done a lot of tangents. We know this has been
we're talking about
heroes.
We are talking about heroes. Like, obviously, the inspiration for this episode comes from Man of Steel. And we're talking about Superman as a hero, but I also feel like talking about these other heroes is good.
Yeah, because it's really what we want to see in our stories from now on. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's it's just what heroes should be. Of course, I do want to relate to heroes every now and then, but I want to see them rise above being
Mm-hmm.
human. I want them to accept that they have a higher calling. And I know that it is interesting to see some of these characters who that is their struggle. They're like, I don't want this responsibility, or I don't want to be better. I want to live my life, do whatever I want. And that is many takes. But nowadays, it just feels like these stories aren't fleshed out and we're not
Mm-hmm.
getting like these strong points across. They feel very weak, or they backtrack, or they aren't being consistent, and it's
Mm-hmm.
so
Well,
many
and
things.
the irrational reasoning behind certain decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think a lot of it does come from the fact that we've seen it so many times, and it's very cliche, right? And we do see the cliche flawless hero in history, right? In the old 40s show, right? Um, and in the old 40s, Superman is flawless. His only weakness is kryptonite,
Oh my gosh.
and shocker, he always gets around it and defeats Lex Luthor or the Mad Scientist or whoever it is that he's fighting, and or just straight up a volcano at one point, I think. Um, and it's cliche, and we've seen it a lot. Um, and yeah, we do want something new, but I want something new, with still keeping the continuity of the character. We talked about this with our when we in our first episode, right? When we're talking about um, Buzz Lightyear and how the continuity, it just didn't feel like Buzz Lightyear. It didn't feel like the movie that Andy went and saw, right?
No,
And
it was the movie he took his kid with.
yeah,
That's just how I'm going to see it from now on.
yeah.
Blah.
But
Eh.
it's the same
Go listen to
thing.
that one.
I want to see and the continuity between Luke Skywalker in episodes 7, 8, and 9 in the actual screen adaptation versus my take on it, or the Legends, Star Wars Legends take. The continuity just isn't there, and that's what I would like to see from now on. Is once you create a character like Superman, who, to put it into Dungeons and Dragons speak, he is a lawful good character
Would he be?
forever.
Wouldn't he be not chaotically good?
No, lawful good.
Oh,
I put Superman as lawful good.
would you say Batman's chaotic good,
I
or is
would
he
say
chaotic
he's
neutral?
neutral.
Neutral,
He's
neutral.
neutral good.
Oh, neutral good.
I'd say
Okay.
Batman's neutral good.
Okay.
Some adaptations, I'd say he's true neutral, but
People have described me as chaotic.
also
Good.
maybe lawful neutral for Batman, because he does have his rules, his rule set, and he sticks to them.
But he will always go for the good. He is a good
It's true.
character.
So maybe he's a lawful good character as well.
Okay, I would say lawful.
Yeah. Like
that's why I would say
lawful good character, paladin of vengeance, maybe.
he would definitely be a paladin.
Yeah. Anyway, we're not here to talk about
Well, now like
my Dungeons and Dragons.
I'm gonna kind of see what people think.
Anyway, I think to take these characters and to change them so much, to basically turn them into new characters, new heroes, we need to give them a new name. We need to give them a new story, a unique story. Because this Superman, I don't think is my Superman.
He wasn't. It is Zack Snyder's, and that's
This was as much Zack Snyder's Superman as the Luke Skywalker that I portray in the episodes that I rewrote, episode 7. If you haven't listened to those, it's a 2-parter. Go listen to them.
We
and
can
then
do
come
our
back.
own. We can do plugs of our own episode
We
on
can do
our
plugs
own
for our
big
own
show.
episodes.
Dang it.
Um,
Okay, you were right. Most people agree.
but yeah.
Superman is lawful good,
Oh yeah.
but
Batman. I think it depends on the Batman.
they say most people say neutral good.
Neutral good. Okay.
I could see that one.
I
Oh,
could
my
see that.
knees.
I could see neutral good. Anyway, again, I'm not gonna. We're not here to
We'll do
create
it.
a Dungeons and Dragons.
We'll do a D&D
character
day
sheet.
someday. D&D day someday. A D day.
D-Day.
D day. They rolled a 1. I'm not trying to get down.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh, you should do it. Oh my gosh. Storming the bays of Normandy in a D&D campaign somehow.
I'm sure it's been done.
Jeez.
My gears are turning now. I'm sure I could do it.
Dude, that oof.
Sorry, tangent.
Neutral 1. The grenade goes off in his hand.
Uh,
Oh, that's very morbid. Wow, now I'm kind of traumatized.
Yep.
I'm gonna get nervous rolling my dice from now on. Where
Good.
are my dice? Oh yeah.
You should be nervous when you're rolling your dice. They determine the fate of your character. Sorry, we've.
I don't care. You all came to listen to us.
You did come to listen to us.
And I will whatever. So we talked about kind of rewinding. So one scene I didn't like was the truck scene, right? Right off the bat for me, the truck scene, I was like, no. Is there a scene for you that you're like, this is an example of what Superman isn't?
I think the big one for me at the very end when he kills Zod, like it makes sense, and it thematically it does kind of fit, but at the same time, it just
So what about it? Is it that he cries after, or that he killed him?
the fact that I don't know the scene. If you haven't seen the movie, spoilers. Superman and Zod are fighting.
And they've sent either the rest of Zod's army is dead or sent to the Phantom Zone, most likely killed because the Phantom Zone, they didn't go in properly. So it is just Zod and Superman are the only Kryptonians on the planet.
Yeah. And they're fighting, and then Zod gets thrown in, or they fight, and they throw each other into this. It's like it's not a museum.
It's a train. I believe it's a station.
Train station.
Some sort.
Yeah, it might be.
I think it is a train station.
That does make a lot of
sense. It's either
sense.
a museum or a train station because it is like marble. It is crazy.
Big statues. Anyway, there's a group of people fleeing, and they get stuck into a corner because Zod is about to kill them.
It's just this little family, mother, daughter, son, and father.
Yeah. And Zod is using his laser eyes, and Superman is holding Zod's head in a chokehold, trying to keep him from cutting down this family. And Superman has to make a choice. He uses his Kryptonian super strength to snap Zod's neck, killing Zod. And it felt so dark for Superman. It felt so dark and so, I don't know, it just didn't feel like Superman to me. I will say I did like that he cried afterward about it. Why he was crying, we're not sure. But personally, I feel like he was crying because for one of two reasons. One, and you and I talked about this the other night after we'd finished, he had just killed the last of his people. And so he was truly alone. If that were the case, I would have liked Zod to, earlier in the fight, say, it's just me and you now, and I'm not you. You are alone. Something like that. To make Superman feel like he's alone.
He kind of says it would have worked well with either you or I die. Like he just looks at him. He's like, it's either you or me. Basically, he's like, because Zod's just like
you or I die. We are alone,
and
something like that.
And Zod is, and the thing is, you let a Kryptonian loose, he could have wiped out countries. There, no one would have stopped him until a piece of Krypton, because at this point they didn't have kryptonite unless they, yeah, there's nothing that
No, that
it wasn't even introduced until the next movie, and it was like, ugh.
so it's either that, right? That's why he's crying, or that he had just killed, right? Like,
But he had been
but at the same time,
fighting.
he'd been fighting the whole time. That he would have been crying because he had killed somebody that way, that brutally, like snapping someone's neck like that is brutal.
I still think, I truly
And I
believe.
think, or before we get to your
Sorry.
thought, I think that crying because of that would have been true to the Superman I grew up loving. But I think it's the fact that Superman's now alone.
It is. I really do think that's it, because that's what it means. He's looking at the body of the last Kryptonian. He didn't get a chance to know. He had just been freshly introduced to them. And Zack Snyder did a good job telling the story, because they explained everything well. Why, after that ship, did he discover that ship did Zod appear? Well, it accidentally sent a distress signal. The movie was done very well. The storytelling was immaculate.
I I would have to watch it again to find any holes.
But
I don't know if I could
I've
find
watched it many times.
Mm-hmm.
You watched it one time. I've watched it a bunch, because I really did love this movie.
It felt very solid.
But it's a good movie just to put on,
Mhm.
because it's a well done movie. It's a movie. It's a good movie.
It is.
But it's just not the best Superman story, because he just feels so careless. The way they just were destroying everything. And I know, of course, maybe he was being very realistic with the destruction, but Superman would really have tried to get them away, because he like barrels through half of Smallville.
There was a lot of
That
destruction
small little town.
that I feel like Superman that we grew up knowing probably would have tried to avoid.
He would have
Definitely would have tried to avoid. Not probably.
He would have like tried to lift them up and take them away to somewhere else, or take them out to the cornfield. He would have done anything he can.
He would have pulled a Metro Man and taken the Shul house away.
Yeah,
You know?
the
Shul.
schoolhouse. Forgot about it. I need to watch that again. But
That is also, that's a really good take on the Superman type hero.
just a Superman who's tired.
Metro Man, right? Superman, he gets tired. I feel like he would maybe get tired of the monotony, the same exact fight, the same exact reward, everything. I feel like it would start to get old.
But he's the perfect parody of Superman, because that's the funny thing.
Yes.
Metro Man is perfect. Metro Man doesn't get hurt by nothing. He never finds a weakness. He's whatever. And that DreamWorks was totally making fun of Superman.
Oh, 100%.
But
And it's a good show into what I think the hero's fall for Superman would end up being. I don't think it would be Superman goes on a killing rampage.
he would just leave.
He would get so sick of it. A lot of the issues that Superman has are because Superman exists. Right? Lex Luthor, a lot of the times his crazy schemes are just to take Superman out. And not on a date.
What?
No, like Lex Luthor, a lot of the time his stuff comes because he wants to defeat Superman. And that's it. That's his whole thing. And that's Superman's problem. And I feel like that would get really old. And so maybe Superman would leave, as Metro Man did. Metro Man got really sick of the same fight, the same results from those fights with Megamind. Right? He always won every single time. So he walked out.
But the thing is, it would have bred more and more in the end. There would have been more villains, and it only focused on Metro City.
It's true.
And again, it is a parody. It's a cute take on what it means to be a villain, what it means to. I do enjoy that movie. I will
say, Up and Megamind are my two favorite movies.
Really?
It is a toss-up between
really
the two. Those are my favorite movies. One of my really good friends, she and I used to be able to quote the entirety of Megamind, line for line as it's going, we would be the movie. It was awesome.
Man, now I want to watch it again because a
It's a good
lot of
movie.
people like really love it, but I guess I wasn't. You know why I didn't like it? Because I didn't like that take on Superman. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
this is because again, I love Superman. My dad loved that movie. He loved Monster vs. Aliens too. Like he loves that one. But
It's another good one.
but with Titan, I
Mm-hmm.
actually like Titan a lot more because he was just the epitome of like this great power is thrust on this individual, and it's just like, oh, cool. All my
Mm-hmm.
main flaws are gone, but I'm not perfect, and I don't care, and I'm gonna choose to just whatever.
Yeah.
So like
With great power comes great responsibility,
it's
as
the
we've talked about
many times.
previously. When that responsibility becomes so great that your everyday life, your not work life, your home life, so to speak, is being bogged down by these same responsibilities, it's it's hard to keep going. And I think that's the Metro Man thing,
Mm.
and the whole Titan thing. I agree. I love Titan as a villain because he is
You can
this.
take me back to jail now. No.
Uh-huh.
I loved that part. I was like, Megamind, you're stupid because you just gave a flawed human this power.
Yeah. Yeah. Megamind is supposed to be super intelligent, but that was probably the dumbest mistake he could have made.
He's like, oh yeah, this is a good idea. He should have. Anyway,
Yep.
it's oh, Superman is a shining example of what a good hero can be. And yes, and I know a lot of people are like, I'm sick of Superman. He's not perfect. And maybe that's why many people want to do the flawed, but I really want to see the Superman who, he'll be flying and a little girl's reaching up to try to get her kitten down, and all of a sudden you see the wind rush by, and this big man in blue just gives her like,
Mm-hmm.
"Are you looking for her?" And he
Big Blue
hands
Boy
him,
Scout.
and I know it's cheesy, and people are like, "Oh, I want gritty." Go watch Batman. Like, just
Yeah.
that's all I can say to you is
If you want a different take on Superman, go watch something that's not Superman.
you can
Um,
watch Man of Steel.
you can watch Man of Steel. You can go watch. I think it's called The Boys. Is that what it's
Oh
called?
my gosh, yes.
Where
Oh,
it's basically Superman powers, but he's
no, he's a test tube baby. He's not. I've seen too many and the thing is, The Boys and Invincible, another Amazon show, they both have these dark Superman types, to some degree. Whether it be Homelander, who from The Boys, who is just this supposed to be the perfect American hero, or Omni Man, who is a Viltrumite from another planet, who is based on conquering. And the Kryptonian, they were kind of shooting for that in Man of Steel, that they were spreading and doing their own thing. But
mm-hmm.
I I really liked the way they did Krypton. But anyway, these two dark Superman, it's just
Here's one. Go read Steelheart.
but
Go read Steelheart. That was really well done.
and you're right.
And that doesn't feel like Superman. It feels like superheroes who are evil.
Yeah, and
And it's a fun take on it.
I know
That was a fun series.
we all want a relatable villain. We all want a dark take, and I know that
Mm-hmm.
something perfect is so a flawed hero is what we want. Like what Kratos has become. We all love that. And I personally do. The man that Kratos has become is wonderful. Love that. But Superman is meant to
Be perfect.
I'm sorry, but he really is meant to be the perfect hero. And it's just simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be cheesy, might be lame, but Clark, he's supposed to be this good-hearted Clark Kent overcome with the emotions of taking on this hero role, but he just never lets it go because he was raised by such good people.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope that they can they can capture that in this next Superman movie. Superman and Lois Lane on CW. Ooh,
Is that the new one?
fantastic, fantastic show. UCW, it's free. You'll get ads, whatever. But ooh, is it good? Is it good? Is it a good take on Superman and Lois? And there are times where he's dealing with his sons. One of his sons has powers. He doesn't. They're at football practice. His son, like, and he's dealing with his own thing. And and his son, like, punches him with super strength. And he looks at him because his son realizes if I were to have punched anyone else, I would have killed them. And he's like, you, me now, because he's like the assistant coach in Smallville, because they live in Smallville, goes aside. He's getting angry, and he just looks into his hands and just lasers his hands because having kids is what breaks Superman.
I feel
Having
like
children.
I'm not there yet, but I'm sure having kids breaks anybody.
Like this man, he goes and like fights. He goes and saves people in a nuke. He goes and stops Intergang in the show. But his sons, that is what caused. And you know what? I was like, he's the perfect man, but he does not mean he's the perfect parent because you can't be a perfect parent because your kids are so. And I love it. 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 I love when he is Superman. Like when he flies down, most people are excited. There's a part where the US government gets mad because he saves a bunch of people from North Korea that are sinking in a nuclear submarine. He just saves them and he speaks Korean to them after saving them. Every time he saves anyone from another country, he speaks their language. He knows all of them because that's what Superman does. He will sit there in Kansas and he'll listen. And for anyone who is about to, like, he does his best, and you see him save so many people, like the people who are just in incredible odds. I don't, of course, some people get mad. They're like, well, why couldn't Superman save me that day? Does he not love me? This is becoming an analogy for something else. But,
Mm-hmm.
it must be hard being Superman. And he strives his best to save everyone. He's not going to, but that means he'll try harder the next time.
I love that, and I think I feel like we've kind of hit our point a couple times. Um, and I'm sorry if we've been a little redundant, but
There's nothing else to say.
Superman is our hero, I think. When I want if I were to have a superhero from any story be real, it would be Superman. The man that is perfect and helps everybody, saves everybody. That's who I want to be real. That's the kind of man that I would want to be. Obviously, he's not real, and so I have my real life heroes. Dad, if you're listening, I've already told you this, but you're my hero.
Aww.
You, Dad, are my Superman.
Aww.
And I have many other friends and parents. There's many other people that I look up to that take on the role of Superman in my life. And that's the thing. Like when you listen to certain songs or in media, it's never you are my superhero. It's you're my Superman. And that's what these people are, because they are as close to Superman as you could be. Because Superman is the best superhero.
He should be.
Should be. The original intent for the character is the perfect superhero.
The symbol that Superman is hope. And I hope that we have a better Superman for tomorrow. And with that, I think this is a good time to say thank you, everyone, for listening to our hour-long rant, very cheesy rant of what we want to see in Superman. And really, the answer is simple. We just want a perfect Superman. Clark Kent doesn't need to be perfect. He can have struggles. But Superman, he needs to be perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I apologize. We apologize for all the tangents, and if it felt super repetitive and redundant, we apologize. But we wanted to get the point across that Superman is Superman and nobody else.
We'll have a discussion of Batman next week. We'll talk about
Okay.
Batman, someone who is flawed, who isn't perfect, and who definitely
Mm-hmm.
ooh. So that'll be fun. So that being said, you all have a great week. Try to be a Superman in someone's life. And we will see you later, pitches.
High five!